Dawson's Rambles. Hey YouTube, Dawson Ryder here. The last video in this sort of mini-series for now, talking about designs of vehicle-based Sentai doing the suits, the mecha ecosystems, and now is the main mecha itself. Just talking about the first main robot introduced in these vehicle-based series. And for this one, I am including Go-Busters and Go-Go V. I am recording this before I got any feedback on it, but for me, I feel like Go-Go V's, especially main robot, counts as vehicle-based, so again, this is just my list and it's meant to be for fun. It's not any sort of serious thing. Again, the fandom takes categorization way too seriously. And also let me know in the comments if you'd like to see me do this for other series, because I've kind of had fun doing this and I've thought about doing it for like the Ninja series and the Dino series. But anyway, let's get started. Coming in at the bottom of the list is Turbo Rangers Robo, Turbo Robo, which I think is the name. I think I wrote these down correctly. And as I said when I talked about these before, I kind of like the individuals on this series better. I think their main robots individuals are pretty memorable. This is more so about the design of the overall robot rather than the individual pieces, because that's what the last video was about. But their individual ones are pretty memorable. They're like fun, they got a little bit of personality, but the main robo for me, all those pre-Jew Ranger ones, sans a few, blend together, and this one is mostly forgettable, and the proportions on it are kind of odd for me. It's not my favorite. After that, I finally wanted to give Boonboomger a sort of win, to give it one step up. I'm not the biggest fan of the mecha. I think there's something interesting about the color scheme of the white, yellow, blue, but yet the arms kind of stick out. But seeing more of the live action pictures, I actually kind of dig it a little bit. It's not so bad. The white, like, main part of it and the main helmet actually look pretty cool. Again, not my favorite, but I definitely like it more than Turbo Rangers. Alright, you may remember on my mecha system list, Future Dawson came in with some pics he thought of while he was editing, and this is Future Dawson again. Hello. So I thought of some ones, again, to add to this list for just the mecha. Lupin Ranger versus Pat Ranger, like I said in the previous video, cops and robbers based, but they do have vehicle-themed mecha, and this does rank rather low. Again, I don't hate the Loop Pat mecha. We're just talking about the main two for this one, and this is a unique pick on the list too because there's two of them. I like the Lupin Rangers a little bit more. It's just like, I don't know, there's something I do kind of like about them in a way, especially Lupin Rangers, but I feel they just don't flow together well. It kind of actually reminds me of Boonboomgers with the arms. There's just something about it where it doesn't feel like it flows. It doesn't necessarily always have to, sometimes it's nice to have a contrast, but it feels kind of haphazard and I wish there was a better synergy to it. After that is Gobster O, which I honestly could not remember the name of Gobusters Mecha because last contact with this was Beast Morpher, so I kept thinking Beast X King, and I'm like, okay, I gotta look the name up. I'm like, it's not Gobster O, is it? And I'm like, oh, it is. Gobster O, it is. Like, Sentai mech names are so uncreative. It's either Robo or O. Like, it's just so boring. Anyway, despite how much I love Go-Busters and I love the ecosystem of like the individual mecha in this series, I've never been the biggest fan of a lot of their main mecha formations. This one is just, I don't know, I guess it's kind of unique. I don't hate it, it's just always kind of been fugly to me, and I've always been kind of disappointed at how much I don't care for it compared to how much I love the series. After that is Boken. I think Boken is just an overall well-designed, solid main mecha. I think they make rather like clinical and boring individual mecha into something with a decent amount of personality and memorability. I overall really like it. It's pretty much like in the middle of this list, and that's kind of where it sits in my opinion. I like it, but it's not necessarily an all-time favorite of mine. After that is Inano. I really like Inano. I think it's got a lot of personality. I think they do a good job of like making the more cartoony ones fit together in a way that it has cartoonish vibes, but it doesn't feel overly silly. And I like the totem aspect. It's a little bit uneven, but it's always been one that stood out and memorable to me, and I think it's unique amongst the vehicle-based one, and I've always really enjoyed it personally. After that, again, I don't know if people are going to be mad at me including this, pre-recording this, but is Victory Robo, which is one of the actual coolest names on this list from GoGo 5/Lightspeed Rescue. This is one I've become more and more of a fan of recently. Like, if you would have asked me years ago, my favorite from that whole ecosystem was always the Omega Megazord, which I still do like. I think that's a really unique one. But this is just a really good classic Robo. I really like it a lot, especially the helmet. It's kind of got a Ranger-esque visor to it. I love the way the hands do the punchy thing. Like, I don't know, I just really vibe with this mecha in recent years. So maybe that's why I wanted to include it on the list, is I just wanted to talk about it. Like, I was filling in holes in my collection a couple years ago, and I got the toy finally for this, and I don't know, I've really been enjoying this one. After that is the classic Car Ranger Robo from Car Ranger / Power Rangers Turbo. I've sort of talked about this in the previous video, but I think this is an underrated, good classic Sentai mecha. I think in general it has a design where it's pretty simple, but it doesn't blend in like a lot of the pre-G Ranger designs, and it remains kind of memorable for me. And as I've gone through a lot of these design talk videos, I've discovered that I really do like a core classic aesthetic that just doesn't seem dated, and I think this has a really good core classic aesthetic. Not to mention, of course, it conveys the vehicle theme really well. Future Dawson here again with another insert pick, and this one ranking rather high on the list, which is Decor Robo. Now this is a bit of a different one because you definitely lean more towards the police theme as you put them together, and you get away from the vehicles, but I really like Decor Robo. I think it was well put together in regards to how the vehicles put together. Like, there are certain mecha that I feel just combine well. Like, in terms of the way you see it in the show and the way the toy feels, I feel that way about this one, to be honest. And in general, this is probably one of my more favorite mecha designs of like the tech-based ones, because as I've said numerous times over the course of these videos, I'm much more of a preferer. Is that a word? The Roger. But I much prefer animal, mystical-based type of stuff. But there are tech ones I enjoy once on occasion, and I really like the Decor Robo because, as I mentioned in my mecha set review, it feels almost like a very comic booky hero feeling mecha that jumped off the page, and I really dig that. Number one for me, though, is Caraman. I really love Caraman. I've made this point an exhaustive amount of times, but my favorite thing about Caraman was, as a series, it reminded me a lot of the core of what I liked about Sentai when I got in it, and yet it didn't feel blended in also with all those other series. It felt like it was something new as well a little bit, and I think the designs reflected that, whereas this has a good kind of classic Robo core, but also has something that stands out as new about it, almost futuristic, almost alien. Not to mention, I love the glowing crystal gem aspects that show off really well in night battles, and I just really love this mecha a lot, one of my favorite in recent years. This video was way faster than I thought it was going to be, but hey, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Let me know what your ranking or favorite vehicle-based mecha are in the comments as always. Thanks to those of you that have been watching this little mini-series. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you can get notifications for my videos. Dawson Rider, signing out.